Dr. Bharat has 20 years of research experience, 12 years of teaching experience in India and Canada. Dr. Bharat is currently head of Center of Education Technology, CET at IIT Guwahati. Dr. Bharat has published over 70 peer-reviewed journals, book chapters, conference papers. He has received numerous awards in India and abroad for his contribution in computational geomechanics and geo-environmental research. Dr. Bharat is the associate editor of Clays and Clay Minerals and editorial board member of Indian Geotechnical Journal and is an active reviewer of over 30 peer-reviewed journals. He is currently one of the Expert Advisory Committee EAC members of Waste Management Technologies Program in Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. He is a consultant and technical advisor to many organizations in Northeast India and other parts of stabilization and landslide hit regions. Dr. Bharat is currently working on the Vastu Sastra to bring into contemporary application in civil engineering. He teaches IKS at IIT Guwahati for undergraduates and graduate students. We are honored to have him over here. I now welcome Dr. Bharat to stage to take his session. Thank you.
देवस्सपातु भुवनत्रयसूत्रधारः त्वां बालचन्द्रकटिकाङ्कितजोटकोटिः एतत्समग्रमपि कारणमन्त्रेण कार्स्यादसूत्रितमसि त्रयतेन विश्वम्. My humble pranams to Yogi Ramsuratkumar ji and Ma Devika and my Guru Tulya Shri Professor Ramasubramanyam ji and my Suhrut Ganti Murthy ji, Ramnadam ji and all other speakers and dignitaries, myself Bharat. Today I am going to speak on Vastu, an eternal holistic engineering and architectural approach of Bharat. I am basically a professor of geotechnical engineering, but a student of Vastu. I should admit that. And I have a long relation with Tamil Nadu. When I was first brought to Kanchipuram, to Paramacharya, 30 years ago. Since then I've been traveling regularly, and when I was in IIC Bangalore, I used to visit during Guru Pujotsava to Kanchipuram. And Balaparivar used to, discuss about the civil engineering aspects or Vastu related things. And he used to make me sit with Stapati in the Ekambareshwara temple and discuss with him how these ancient architects or engineers used to build these temples. Since then I have a lot of interest in Vastu subject, but formally on the research aspect of Vastu have started few years ago only. Vastu, the etymology if we see, which is Vasatun Vastu, Gruhakarana Yogya Bhumi Vastu. There are other meanings like Vasanti Pranino Yatra iti Vastu, Gruharachana Vichinna Vastu Bhumi Amarakosha tells. And there are many other meanings. And one of the description of Vastu in one of the classical books called Mayamatam mentions Amartyaschaiva Martyascha Yatra Yatra Vasanti iti Vastu. Tad Vastvati Matam Tanyaihi iti Mayamatam. So where Devatas and Martyas, humans reside, that is called Vastu. Until here, I think everyone knows about Vastu. And when I used to think that Vastu is only about the directionality and then placement of the rooms or something, but I never used to relate beyond that until recently. We know the directions and the placement of different rooms in a house and making a grid and identifying the devatas, and based on that the rooms within the house and around the house will be placed. But the subject matter of Vastu is much beyond, which talks about universe evolution. Like Vastu Brahma Sadavishvam Vyapnoti Sakalam Jagat, it says whole creation itself is Vastu. So Brahma was the first architect who created this universe. And there is a discussion about Vastu. In Bhagavata Purana we hear about Pruthu Maharaja. So his father, Vena, because of his adharmic rule, there was a kshama, famine, and there was nothing, there is no fertility, nothing existed. But Prudhu wanted to revive the whole thing, and there is some friction that happens between Prudvi and Prudhu. And from there are other books like Bhoja Maharaja's Samarangana Sutradhara discusses. And it starts from there, in fact. And it talks about how Prudvi pleads to Brahma, and Brahma in turn engages Vishwakarma for building the whole thing, creation of spaces. And Vishwakarma takes help of his 4 sons, Jaya, Vijaya, Siddhartha, Chaturdha, Parajita. He has 4 sons, Manasputraha. And then he tries to take help of his 4 sons for creation of the spaces. Then there is a lot of discussion that takes place between Jaya and Vishwakarma in Samarangana Sutradhara, but there is another discussion that takes place between Aparajita and Vishwakarma. There is a whole volume of book called Aparajita Pruchha discusses about the whole creation. So here a volley of questions that have put forth by Jaya to Vishwakarma, like how this whole creation has started. Purvam ekar navejate jagati pralayam gate. This whole universe has dissolved earlier, but how this Amarapuri and Mahabhuta have recreated. He asked the first question as this, and then he explains that the whole universe has gone into the womb of Narayana, and again it regenerates from Narayana's womb. And even now, interestingly, I'm not bringing parallel to this, but I just want to state that the black hole, what physicists are talking about now, is taking the whole mass, wherever go, when the mass travels through this, and then black hole absorbs it. But recently what they have found is that the same black hole is actually emitting too. I'm not bringing a parallel between Krishna Bilam, that is black hole, and Vishnu, but I'm just saying that same source can actually take and then also emit what we are describing here. Similarly, there is a discussion on the creation of spaces, division of spaces because of hereditary mountains, Kulabhu Brutaha. That's what the Jaya asks. So natural mountains which are existing, because of which how you distinguish different lands. And how do you identify which land is good for construction? And how do you create forts? All different sorts of things have been asked. Even in fact, a very interesting aspect is, when you take a soil doesn't hold on its own if I make a fort out of it. Then what material has to be added so that it will actually glue together, or it brings a cohesion. So it's so technical books that are available on Vastu, which encompasses large areas such as creation of towns and also art forms. And yesterday we had a very good presentation on minerals are metals. But these metals again come from mining activity, where the soil mechanics is important. So you have to mine to extract the ore. So there you have to create a hole or into the earth and create gradual slopes to reach there. So therefore it talks about a whole lot of things. It has a mention in many places. First thing is in Rig Veda. There's a mention of Vastoshpate, and he actually takes away the Rugmatas or Anamivo. And there is one particular shloka in Matsya Purana mentions about who are the Vastu Upadeshakaha. 18 Upadeshakas have been mentioned. Bhrugurattir Vasashtascha Vishvakarma Mayastatha Narado Nagnajachaiva Vishalaksha Brahma Kumaro Nandishaha Shaunako Garga Evacha Vasudevo Aniruddhascha Tatha Shukra Brahaspati Ashtadashaite Vikhyata Vastu Shastropodeshakaha. It mentions about 18 Vastu promoters are Upadeshakaha. And also there is a mention in Ramayana, if you read Balakanda, how the Ayodhya Nagara has been built. This was built by Manu. Manuna Manavendrena Yapuri Nirmita Swayam. And there is a dimensions. Ayat Adashachadvecha Yojanani Mahapuri. There is dimension means there is engineering. Because how the dimensions are coming in. There is a 1:4 city has been made. So the dimensions are given. And there is a builder or engineer who has built it, that is Manu. And very interesting what I found is, I will not go through all the shlokas because the time constraint what I have. And here if you see, Sarva Yantra Yudhavati, yantras were existing in apanas, in the shops. So what these yantras? Yantras are used for creation of spaces and understanding the division of time, like mechanical contrivances. Those things were existing to create these spaces for creation of Nagara or Pattanas. And in Agni Purana, there is a shloka which mentions how the classification of earth can be made. I will again come back to the same shloka, so I will not detail now. And in Bhagavata Purana, Dasamaskanda, where Krishna builds a town, and where there is a mention of Antas Samudre, Nagaram Krishna Adbhutam, Hi Dvadasha Yojanam. Here in Dasamaskanda, it mentions that a Nagara has been built within the sea. Right? And Drushyate Yatrahi Tvastram, that is Vishwakarma. Vijnanam Shalpanaipunam Pratyachatvari Vidibhi Yatha Vastu Vinirmitam. Based on the Vastu, this has been built. So, Vastu is eternal, Sanatana. This has been existing since time immemorial. It's eternal, which will exist also. As Vastu encompasses these many things, currently what is the condition? We have a lot of advancement that have taken place at present in civil engineering. A lot of instruments have been developed in the field applications as well as the laboratory developments. And what is the role of Vastu at present? Let us a little bit dwell on it. The hydraulic structures what we build for tapping water and also for the application of creation of electricity and many other things. These are important structures what we have currently, and a lot of engineering goes in for creation of dams. And because the geological survey, geotechnical survey, all sorts of engineering survey has to be made, and currently what we have is something called total station survey, and now even they replaced by the drone surveys and the satellite surveys, satellite-based surveys. And we have several embankments designs like gravity and buttress and whatever different types of dams we have. And but then currently the existing status of these dams, if you see, one of the dam is Sardar Sarovar Dam, where the dam had to be continuously increased from 1999 till 2019. Around 20 years, from 80 meters to 140 meters, the dam had to be increased, because of which there are a lot of environmental impact in and around on the downstream side as well as on the upstream side. Not just in India, the famous Three Gorges Dam of China also had a catastrophic effect on the environment. And we've been creating a lot of dams because in the West, they have created a lot of dams in the past, and so we followed the suit and we started creating a lot of dams. And similarly, large high-rise structures what we are building, all are at certain environmental cost we are doing this, because the production of clinker is directly related to the CO2 emissions. So if you see these graphs, what I show you, with time, the amount of cement produced, China tops this band. If you see, a similar band exists for the CO2 emissions, because this is a whole production that is directly implied on the CO2 emissions. And if you see, not only that, this particular concrete does not last for very long. Long means 80 years, more than that it doesn't last. So it has to be broken, demolished. So there are experts now, demolition experts, who are actually breaking down the existing dams. For your information, this is the statistics of the undamming currently going on across the globe. So in 2010s, all these dots indicate how many number of dams have been demolished. We have to demolish also. Soon we'll be following the suit, because they are demolishing and now also we need to demolish. Whole world. Mostly USA is doing, because they have constructed last 100 years, so they are demolishing all the dams now. So we have to relook into the dam engineering, what we are doing. And secondly, when we demolish these particular things, they also leach certain chemicals. Not only heavy metals, also high ionic strength salts like potassium, calcium, all these salts are released into the earth. You might have seen recently people talk about C&D waste, that is a construction demolition waste, can be converted to artificial sand and can be reused in the buildings. That people are doing. But what about leachate that is generated from it? There's a high ionic strength salts are leaching through it. Right? This is not safe to use, because what about the inmates who are residing close to those materials? Let us come back to Vastu again. We traveled around 5,000 years from Bhagavatam, what I mentioned, and then again let us go back to Vastu. We have very interesting structures, including dams. This is one of the dams that exists near Faridabad. It comes under NCR Delhi, and this Anangpur site comes under Haryana now. So this is built in the 8th century by Anangapal, Tomar district, Tomar Rajputs. And this was built using a solid gravity walls, using quartzite stones which are naturally available, and they chiseled out and then glued together using certain mortar, which is 8th century, remember, and those structures are still intact. Okay. Whereas the dams we are demolishing for 100 years old, but these dam structure is still intact, which is still there. And current satellite map of this, the location is quite, interesting. At the foothills of Aravali, the water has been tapped. So the reservoir, what they're talking about is at the foothills of Aravali, and this is Anangpur Dam, this is Aravali. And water is traveling towards the northeast, Ishanya, and where this particular structure has been built. A lot of investigation must have gone in. Without that, it is not possible. The site selection is based on some surveys. Even now, what we do is, without survey, it's not possible. Through satellites, we are able to visualize the location is so good or something. In olden times, 1200 years ago, how this could have been achieved. So there must be some yantras. What we talk about, we know the yantras because of Vedashalas. Common people know that there are yantras for measuring the time, but similar yantras are also existing for creation of spaces. How do we know? Vastu Shastras mention about yantras. There are yantradhyayas in Vastu books also, not in Jyotisha alone. Similarly, the material selection, and this is the plan view and sectional view of the current dam. And quite interesting aspect is the dam height is only small, 12 meters, okay? And dam length is slightly over 100 meters. So because the location of dam is a very important aspect, because it should be optimal location so that the material cost will be less. The point where you want to create a dam, that it should be narrow so that the material cost will be small, right? And there are channels And if you see from the elevation, these are the flow channels that are available, and in a pattern this has been given, and this is a sectional view. So there were sluice gates to close these channels, to open whenever they want for some irrigation or something on the downstream side. This is how this dam has been created. So this is the dam site. This is intact. So the middle, the in-between quartzite stones, what you see is a mortar, natural mortar. This natural mortar is again based on organic material. Again, there is a description in all different Vastu Shastras, how to create this mortar. And organic material which lasts for very long, which doesn't degrade. By current mechanical or civil engineering principles, if you try to understand the stability of this particular dam, what we require is the overturning moment, because dam should not topple or it should not move away because of the water force that is actually coming in. Right? So these are coming out to be very high. Factor of safety is what we could talk about. Factor of safety 1 is just stable, less than 1 gone. So 37.7, so definitely this is not based on those weights, etc. There are certain principles might have been used to create these structures, and definitely it satisfies the current requirement as well. And sad part is, this is the catchment area what we have calculated now using the satellite data, and this is about 10.436 kilometer square area the water can be stored. And we can estimate the volume also if you know the spatial variations of this particular depth. But unfortunately, this whole thing is a human settlement currently. Right? So we do not know. We are sitting on a, right? Water could have been stored here. The groundwater table is much depleted now. Earlier, water used to be stored here. Now, groundwater is much depleted here. That is the unfortunate part. And similarly, we have dams, much older dams, like the Kalanai Dam, which is on the Kaveri River. So look at the height. Height is only 5 meters. So what does it tell? If you are going for a very large height dams, there are certain issues like seawater intrusion, and downstream will not be irrigatable. It cannot be irrigated if seawater intrudes into your downstream side. And also you cannot extract any water from there. Right? So you should not have very large dams. Large dams are old-fashioned, rather taken from somewhere. Right? So shorter height dams created at some places. Interestingly, that was Anangpur Dam was at foothills of certain hills, those Aravali hills. This is close to the seashore, around 100 kilometers, Nagapatnam, etc. that comes. Right? So here the downstream never receives any seawater. That is the beauty of it. And similarly, you have water conservations near shores, which were created by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. These are Sindhugad Fort Lakes. So near every drop of water was stored, tapped and used in the ancient times. Of course, in the recent times also. That is the Vastu Shastra. Vastu Shastra is not just for directions, it has much more beyond. And these are some of the fort lakes which are currently usable. You have drinking water. But much more than this, there are about tens of fort lakes. Now seawater are already intruded. Because we are not able to maintain. We are not maintaining, or we are not giving any importance to that. And this is on foothill, on the mountain. We have seen foothills, we have seen near the seashores, and also we have seen near the forts, but this is on the hill, Mandu in Madhya Pradesh. And there are beautiful hydraulic structures that are built for tapping the water, and more than 1200 tanks are available. Right? And not just tapping the water from the rainwater harvestation, but also reaching out to the groundwater. There's a lot of emphasis that has been given on reaching out to the groundwater. So subterranean structures have been built. This is one of the subterranean structure that exists in Gujarat, in Pathan. what the earlier speaker Somnath ji has shown, that is a Chand Bawadi in Rajasthan, and you have similar structures in South India as well, such as Nagakunda in Karnataka and Nadavari Koneru in Kanchipuram. These all structures were to reaching out to the groundwater and also to make them available for common man. So this is a slight view of this Rani Ki Vav, because there is a lot of intricate geotechnical aspects or civil engineering aspects involved in creation of this particular subterranean structure. If you just zoom in, because there's a ASA project where they got a 3D picture of the whole thing created, and which is available online, and I got it from SciArc only. So which gives very intricate details about this Rani Ki Vav. And this is the well at the last portion. This is the west portion. East portion is the entrance, and the west you have the well, which extends around 330 meters, right? So this is the east portion. From east we actually get into the west. This is the well that is actually existing here. This is a sectional view, what you can see. Right? The slope is very gentle. What I just mentioned, what Professor Ramanathan mentioned, mining activity, the mining slopes will be very gentle, just like this. Right? So these are the dimensions of Rani Ki Vav. I got it from Bruhat, thanks to Mohanji. This is the 78.15 meters length and around 21.87 meters width is this particular Rani Ki Vav. And this is a sectional view. The well extends to around 30 meters. Here if you see near the well, this is a brick structure. These are all stones, sandstones. They're all created with sandstones, but this is a brick structure. Arch is a big brick structure. This brick structure, because of this arch, which takes a lot of load, which comes at the ends here, where you have a huge retaining walls. So load is transferred through this arch, and they are transferred to this retaining wall. This is how the load transfer mechanism is actually placed. There are several galleries. So for example, if water table is somewhere here, they actually fetch water from this particular gallery. Okay? If water table is somewhere down, and they fetch from different gallery. This is how they actually operate. And these galleries also are kind of a mechanism to support these retaining walls on the other side. Okay? These are called shoring systems. At present we use in the metropolitan cities where you are actually digging 10 meters, 20 meters down to create multi-story apartments. For the parking you are actually creating 10 meters or 20 meters you are actually digging, right? So similar thing. So beautiful carvings that exist all around. First and foremost thing is orientation. Orientation is the first and foremost thing that is required for creation of any space. And previous speaker also showed Modhera Sun Temple, where during the equinox day, the sun rays directly fall on the deity inside. And similarly, you have this Padmanabha temple in Kerala, where during the equinoxes, the sun rays through these windows exactly fall through. So Dik has been given a lot of importance, and if that is not satisfied, there are a lot of issues. That's what they mention. I bring attention to one particular aspect. What I found it quite interesting when I was working on algorithms during my PhD is that natural species like bees, etc., they follow certain rules. So they follow vector calculus. How do they do? Here, one of the bees is making a dance called waggle dance. This particular waggle dance understanding received a Nobel Prize to an Australian professor. What it shows is, it actually gives a dance form in particular direction. Direction actually indicates the location of the source or the honey which is available with respect to the sun. With respect to the sun, the location of the source has been given, nectar. And they made one interesting experiment where they closed down all the hives and opened it later, thinking that sun also, the position changes with every 4 minutes 1 degree, so they thought that they will make a mistake, but they didn't make any mistake. They changed accordingly. That means this direction has imbibed in their minds. Similarly, the direction is so important for us as we are actually traveling on earth, right? And with particular direction, this is very important for creation of spaces as well. And in olden days in Vastu, there is a Dik Sadhana based on Shanku Yantra, because we cannot obtain the direction based on magnetic compass. Magnetic compass gives magnetic field direction, but actual geographical east-west line is something different. That is Prachi, what we are trying to achieve using Shanku Yantra. Using Shanku Yantra, the shadow which is cast on the circle can be observed when the shadow enters and exits, and if you just combine this, you will get a line. This is supposedly the east-west line. But as Earth is slightly tilted around 20.5 degrees, and during equinoxes, you will get exact east-west line, but during solstices, you will get a maximum deviation, deflection, because although sun rises from east, but it traverses towards the north or south, Uttarayana Dakshinayana, right? So we make a mistake, but there are correction factors given in different shastras. Like in Manasara, Kanya Vrashabhamasaucha Apachaya Navidyate iti. Apachaya is it penumbra or correction? But they mention the correction because Meshecha Pradhame Pankto Dvayangulam cha Visarjayet. You have to deduce 2 angulas from this particular measurement if it is Mesha, Sayana Mesha, that is March 21st, during that particular time. And these are correction factors that are mentioned in Mayamatam as well, Manasara Mayamatam. But Mandapakunda Siddhi mentions differently, because it talks about Miduna and Dhanu, where you don't require the correction factors. Currently we are working on, we are doing the experiments and then measuring these things. Why the orientation is so important? That too an accuracy of minutes, not even degrees. If you look at one of the temples, Vidya Shankara temple in Sringeri, in Makha Mandapa there are 12 pillars. Insymmetrically they are actually placed, and generally pillars are to support the superstructure. But here the pillars, they are called Rasi Stambhas. Each Stambha, there is a particular Rasi symbol is inscribed, like Mesha, Aja symbol is given, and Vrashabha, Mesha, Vrashabha, Midana, Karka, Simha, Kanya, Tula, Dhanu, Makara, Kumbha, Meena. Vrashchika, Dhanu, Kumbha, Makara, Meena. These things are inscribed on different pillars. What happens is, when sun rises above the horizon, when sun is in Mesha Rasi, the sun rays illuminate that particular pillar, Mesha pillar. So when sun is in Vrishabha Rasi, they illuminate the Vrishabha pillar. Like that they illuminate different pillars in different months. At least during the construction, this used to happen. Something like this. This is during equinox, and when this Uttarayana takes place, so they actually go to Vrishabha, Vidana, etc. That's how they illuminate different pillars. But one interesting aspect is, for example, when it traces back, when sun goes to northern hemisphere, Uttarayana, and then comes back, tries to coming back. But don't you think they actually cast rays are falling on the same pillar? If you see the table here, if I take January and November on the same particular day, say January 23rd and November 23rd, the difference is only minutes difference. But they are 2 different months. They are 2 different months, but the sun's position only varies by only minutes. That means the dimension of the entrance is very small if you have gone there. Very small. The dimension of the entrance and dimension of the pillar are so important. Distance between these two are so important. So there is a lot of mathematics, engineering has gone into. And the creation of spaces also is happening due to the symmetry. Right? And if you draw a line, this is the line I have drawn, yellow line, through satellite image. This is a Google Earth image, okay? And it's accurate. Even now if you do that, right? So that is how the orientation has been created even for Rani Ki Vav. This is exact Prachi. So this is also kind of a temple for worshipping water, or because water is a devata for us. And coming to soil selection, because when you are actually excavating something, how do you understand whether the soil will collapse or whether you have certain supporting system, what kind of supporting system are required? Because we have seen many collapses that have taken place all around. In fact, in Chennai also, there is a huge sink that forms. In Bangalore also, right? Mumbai and many other places. So there is a soil selection or the soil selection based on pramanas that are given. Sita Rakta Pita Krishna Vipradinam Prashashyate Bhumihi. This is Brihat Samhita. And similarly in Agni Purana, similar thing has been stated. Shuklajya Gandha. One is what you see Chakshusha Pramana. Other one is Grana. You have Chakshusha Pramana, Tvak Pramana, all different Pramanas are there. This all comes under the Pratyaksha Pramana. How this color indicates particular type of soil, that is undiscernible for many of us, right? But color of soil indicates presence of particular mineral. I'll come back to this slide. Color of soil indicates particular presence of particular mineral. And smell or taste indicates presence of certain microbial activity. Right? So through pramanas, what we are identifying is that what kind of a microbial system or microbiome activity that is present and what is it suitable for. So similarly, you have laterite soils. On a hillside, you will find these laterite soils. So that is very good for creation of forts. The soil will have around, in a modern terminology, if I talk about, it will have around 35 angle of internal friction and good cohesion and can be built very well. So similarly, it's not just the only classification that is available. So many number of texts are available on various classification techniques. Also presence of plants. You can also place certain seeds and see how the till, etc. Within 3 nights you have to observe. If it is actually growing within 3 nights, that is a good soil. Otherwise, you have to you should not take. So there are several number of tests that are available to understand the type of soil and quality of the soil. And again, when you talk about the varnas here, it also, there are certain studies that are existing in recent times that how a particular soil or micronutrients, microbial activity induce different qualities in us. Right? So if you want your knowledge to improve, jnana, etc., there's a Brahmin quality that is actually is required. And if you want to create forts, etc., and also nourish your, physic, etc., the Vaishya, this is actually studied. This is published in Nature, scientific reports by Westerners for Indian soils. Okay, so this study is available. Unfortunately, that link is not there here to show for me, right? And many a times when I gave last time the faculty development program, FTP also, some people asked me, is it scientific? This pramanas, is it really scientific? Because we actually measure, quantitative thing is more important for us. I see one simple example, a Garuda, eagle at a height of say 2 kilometers, it sees a small perturbation in waters. It doesn't see a real fish. Fish is not visible. It sees a small perturbation in waters. It dives down and then catches the fish here. Even the cameraman can't capture the fish here, right? But it understands that it is a fish. Especially when it is hungry, it tries to catch the fish. Otherwise, whole energy is lost when it has to dive down from 2 kilometers to down to the water level. Is it really scientific? The pramanas is not for everybody. You have to really sharpen your conscious mind and focus on your intellect and focus on your indriyas to understand what is actually throwing it. We also know if nice smell comes in, we know that it's raining outside. Because earth gives smell, gandha. That is the nature of the earth. And this jnanendriya actually can connect with that and then can tell you the rasa or the gandha. But there are different gandhas. We are not trained to, but that comes with sadhana. This is not a natural thing that you just smell it and then say that this is a good thing or something. That thing has to be nurtured, right, through sadhana. And let us relook into the modern soil mechanics, what we have been doing. I'm a professor of geotechnical or soil mechanics, so I've been working in this area for quite some time. Soil, according to the modern soil mechanics, soil is a particulate matter. And initial understanding is that there are only two phases, soil solids and air. Coulomb and all these people have proposed several methods. When you are actually doing bunkers, creation of bunkers, it collapsed. So based on that, he said that, okay, there is a flow or frictional resistance between the particles that is important. So that's how frictional resistance has come into picture. Friction laws have come into Coulomb's friction laws. So whole mechanics is based on Coulomb's friction laws. And two-phase system still, considering solid and water. But Terzaghi, even now in all designs, if you have constructed a building recently, that is based on this particular principle only, Terzaghi's effective stress principle that we've been using. There is a three-phase system, solid, air and water, which was proposed around 1963. Still we do not have enough equipments to understand how the strength varies even now. I challenge this. The shear strength, how this changes with moisture content for a whole range of moisture content is still not known. And what we are talking about, three-phase system. But what exactly soil consists of? It consists of microorganisms, micronutrients, organic matter, everything. This three-phase system is only water, solids and air. And we create equations and solve the equations and then we say that this is a factor of safety. And factor of safety 2 times, 3 times we increase because we don't know a lot of things. So this is what we've been doing, right? So just to, bring parallel to what we are doing and then what the pramanas are telling about. Pramanas are realistic because to create this two-phase system, what we have to do? We extract the soil from the field, put it in the oven and heat it up to 105 degrees for 24 hours because we'll kill everything there. Only solid should be there and water or air, that's it. Right? That is how we've been doing. This is any practice based on standard codes. And we talk about consistency limits. We bring soil and then do certain tests and measure its consistency through liquid limits or something. And in fact, unknowingly or knowingly, we are also using pramanas. Because even after working for so long, and by touching the soil, Tvak Pramana, I can tell you what is the liquid limit or consistency of a given soil. But it should be oven dried. Otherwise I cannot tell. Because that is how we've been trained. Right? Similarly, the friction angle, which requires a huge equipment, all those things, without testing we can tell. Approximately, because the range is about 20 to 30, 40 degrees. So we can tell, based on touch. So we've been using pramanas. It's not that pramanas are something new. And the world famous failure, that is Pisa Tower tilting, what we think is that could have been managed or the tilt would not have been there if the soil was properly identified. Because the construction itself took place for around 300 years or so. In the first phase itself, it started tilting. The amount that has been spent on this expenditure, you can build 16 more Pisa Towers. Okay? That's why this is world famous architecture. Okay? So the brick wall, that to brick wall, it's not a stone wall. Your Srirangam or any other thing, there are stone walls. Right? So that is what I was telling, whether really soils are two-phase or three-phase. There are multi-phase, many different things are there. To really write equations and understanding the interplay between these different phases, it will take 200-300 years more. Definitely. So now let us come back to the Ranikuva, what we are discussing about the soil. Soil analysis might have been done using the Pramanas because Vastu Shastras talk about this, and whatever the modern methodology for the soil mechanics showed were very recent, less than 100 years. So these structures were built around 1,000 years also, therefore these were based on Vastu. And there are retaining walls, stone selection, etc. I will not go into, but then in the current methodology, if you make an excavation, like a bunker or something, there are pressures, lateral pressures that come in, right? Because of that only there are shear stresses coming into soil. Because it collapses if the excavation is to a deeper level, because the forces are much larger. That's what we see everywhere. Otherwise what we'll do, we'll put some props into the ground and then excavate, put a horizontal prop. This is called shoring system. So this is how we create, right? But then that also can collapse if the water table is not identified, and then there is a creation of stresses that happen, uplift pressure that will be created. So this is a famous example what we show in our classes. Nicole Highway collapse is because of improper estimation of lateral pressures, lateral thrust of soil. There is another option is reinforcement by placing nails or something. But these nails will not last for long, but these structures lasted for very long. So how they could have created these retaining walls? Because when you are excavating, soil will collapse, so that you require retaining walls. But retaining walls can be constructed from bottom to top, not from top to bottom. So how they would have achieved? This is my analogy, that they would have created a whole excavation like for pond or something. They would have mobilized materials. They started building the foundations, stones, then filled and created a pillar to certain depth, and the gallery what you see, the horizontal beams, and backfill the soil, and this is how they would have filled. That is how they would have created. Very simple for me to make in 10 minutes this cross section, but then imagine the section, the slope itself is changing from east to west. And here it's only 0 meters to here 30 meters. You have to make that, right? And it seems during that time you have a Saraswati river very close to it. So water continuously, perennially, actually it intrudes into your space. Currently what we do is we dewater continuously. I don't know how they would have achieved this particular task. So that's how they would have created these spaces, and they used buttress roots for additional support to the reinforced structures, these retaining walls. On both sides it must be there. So currently what they have discovered is the Maidoms built by Ahoms in Assam are also of greater depth. 13 meters deep they have excavated, and the soil they mixed with certain organic materials to create these domes. And the same people, Ahoms, from 11th century or so to 17th century, they built some temples in Shivsagar. Shivsagar is one of the district where there are temples like Shivadol, Shaktidol and Vishnudol. So look at this location. This is quite intriguing. This is the temple, Shivadol, Napukuri Shivadol, and this is a tank, a huge water tank. And this side also you have a huge water tank. The temple location is somewhere here. So there are several earthquakes. Assam receives large earthquakes, landslides, floods. We receive everything, right? So there is one Assam earthquake called 1897 earthquake, which is magnitude 8.2, when Brahmaputra river changed its course. But nothing happened to these structures. Everything collapsed, but nothing happened to these structures. I was a consultant to ASA, Archaeological Society of India, and I visited this particular site in 2013 because one of the Maidoms was settling. So that time I visited this and I told one of the ASA person that, Milind Chaube, I told that these water bodies are connected to the foundation, temple foundation. So this connection I see in South India as well, in Thousand Pillar Temple, and also in Ekambareshwara, many other temples. Tirthas are for the same reason. Tirthas are always connected to the foundation. But in modern approach is water should not be there near foundation. That is a quite controversy. So this water is connected, so it should be very careful. So after that, what happened, this government has given for fisheries, for these tanks. So they started dewatering. Huge cracks appeared, parallel to these particular tanks. And whatever the tilt you see is because of that. There is a slight tilt. It's not because of the earthquake. This is human made. Human intervention, because water has been dewatered and it got it tilted. Right? Then when he came to know, he just said that no, water has to be filled back. Because my observation is just pramana. Soil was observed, which is dark in color, which is swelling soil. I said that this soil will crack if you are dewatering, and then also it can tilt. He has actually mentioned this whole story in his documented, that was happened in 2013 and it is published in 2016. So pramanas are very, very useful. Right, so I just sum up. Vastu, the approach of Bharat, is eternal, because I showed from Vedas, in all Itihasas, Puranas, everywhere there is a mention of Vastu, and based on Vastu, the built, everything has been built. And only this 100 years or whatever period what we are talking about is very short period compared to the whole span what we are talking about. So we will actually bounce back again. And this is a holistic and sustainable approach, and it helps in addressing a lot of problems currently we are facing, like water scarcity, etc. And yadatra saushtavam kinchit, this is what I put every time. Yadatra saushtavam kinchit, tad guroreva, me nahi. Yadatra asaushtavam kinchit, tanme meva guror nahi. So anything, a small virtue if you find in my presentation, that is because of the gurus. Anything which I could not interpret properly, that is because of me. And I thank the IKS division of MOE, Minister of Education, for a lot of research we are able to do because of the support what we are getting. And we have students, research students from Jyotisha background, and they are working on Vastu related things. So thanks everyone for patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Bharat. There are many questions. Thank you. And if you have got any questions, please pass to our volunteers. We will just pass to Dr. Bharat again to respond us. I now invite Mr. Suresh from Devaki Veda Patasala to honor Professor Bharat.